Shall we start? Okay. Okay. So I remember we left on HTML itself, right? So one of the last topic that was remaining to discuss in HTML was just have a look at this output and then we will discuss it. See, this is a page already written, right? Under the body, you can see the heading is what? Professional web page with form, right? This is the heading, right? Then you can see the input type test id is equal to name is equal to name required. That means it's required. If you leave it blank, you will get a error, right? Right. And before that, you can see there is a tag called as label, right? There is a tag called as label, and it says it's for this label is for which input type? The type which has the id name. ठीक है ध्यान रखिए what we have done over here, just for the sake of a normal practice and a normal convention, what people do, people give the name attribute also the same value, and people also give the id attribute the same value, right? But here this for indicates the id attribute. Okay, because id is used for recognition. I think I have discussed the difference between name and id before, right? Yes or no? No. Okay. So name is something when I submit a form. For example, let me okay, form I have not put an action, right? Let me say put an action, form action, and let me keep it blank. Okay, and method is equal to say get, right? And let me add something to the form, right? You can see the difference. This is the email field. If even I miss any of the basic syntax error, or Islam, I will get a issue that please include at, because this second field, if you see, this is of the type email. Okay, the first field was of the type text, right? The only requirement for it that I cannot leave it blank with the required attribute. I mentioned that, right? Whereas for the type email, not only required is necessary, but because the type is email, it's automatically going to check some of the basic syntax. Like there has to be a add, there has to be dot something, okay, comma or ac dot in or something like that. Okay. Password. The third is password, and you can see password is always because the field is password, input type is password. So whatever I am typing, that comes hidden, right? Yeah. It is also required. Fine. Then the last is text area. Text area is something where we can enter a large amount of text, right? Uh, Here I have not put required, because if you want, you can leave the text area as a comment optional, right? So that's the reason maybe I have not uh, uh, put a required attribute over here, or required that is to be filled as a mandatory, right? But there is something else I have done. I have, I think required is there, right? Required is there, right? Required is there. If I remove it, then only I won't have the obligation to basically fill it, right? Required was there. So I have put a placeholder over here. What is the placeholder? You can see enter your comment. This is already coming in the box as a gray, and as soon as I start typing, this goes away, right? It goes away. So it gives you an indication what you are supposed to enter in the text box, because this text box is expecting some kind of commit. Okay. Sometimes you will see the form with suggestions or complaints. So that is suggestions slash complaints are written as a placeholder, right? If I enter something over here and then some password, and let me keep this message as blank. I have not saved. That's why I have to restart. Okay. Then also it must submit. You see, it is submitted, but because action is empty, so it is submitted to the same page. It's not going to any other page. But just to have an idea, you can look. You can just have a look over here, and you see what you are getting over here. Name is equal to Shah Imran Alam. Email is equal to Shah Imran Alam, right? And so on. Whatever fields that we have put, so you can see all these things. Password is also coming over here. Message is empty because we have not put any message, and message was field was not having a required requirement, right? Fine. So all these things that you see, password, message, email, and this name, these are actually not the IDs, but these are the name, whatever value we have given for the name, just like a variable name. So this input type text, the first one, has got an internal name as name, right? The second one has got an internal name as email. ठीक है आप कहते हैं ना int x. So x is the name given to a container of the type integer or a variable of type integer that can hold a value, say 10. So value is different, name is different, right? So whenever in any input type, if I give a attribute name, so whatever the name is given, that is just like a variable name. ठीक है? What you are looking in the browser bar, the address bar after the question mark, all these names that you have given, along with these names, whatever the value that you have filled in the box, that is appearing, right? And where it is going? It is supposed to go to the server machine. Okay? It is go to the server machine because you fill the form has to go to the server machine. There is a component, maybe written in Java, maybe written in C Sharp, PHP, whatever language, that is going to receive it, use it the way it likes. Maybe uh, it may wish to push it to the database. Okay? Generate a report, an acknowledgement, and return it back to you, and so on. Right? So this information is supposed to go to the server, but server will recognize with the same variable name that you have given over here. That means for the first field, it will say what is the variable name, and the variable that value Shah Imran Alam that I have entered. So it will fetch with the variable name get underquote name, and it will get you the value Shah Imran Alam, and that will be stored in the server by some internal variable name that could be pushed to the database using a SQL query or whatsoever. Okay. So this is the process, right? So basically, all these name fields are used to define an internal name, which are passed to the server along with the value that we enter into the fields, right? Just to just to recognize it outside the scope of this form. ठीक है? When it goes to the server. ठीक है? That's the actual reason. ठीक है? Whereas ID ID is something that has to be unique, right? And that is meant for the recognizing each of the HTML element within the page, either for the styling or for providing a dynamic behavior. Okay? So you will see most of the time whenever we try to recognize or get hold of internal element, right? We may use the ID. Okay? Internally in the page, in the web page, on the client side. I'm talking about the client side. But what information is sent to the server, that is sent by the name value pair that you have defined in the name field. Guys, क्लियर हो रहा है? ठीक है, फिर से रिपीट करें? जरूरत है? देखो, ये जो पहली फील्ड है, इसका नाम जैसे वेरिएबल का नाम होता है वैसे इसका नाम मैंने दे दिया नेम। ठीक है, दूसरी का नाम दे दिया हमने ईमेल, तीसरी का नाम दे दिया पासवर्ड, राइट, एंड चौथी का नाम दे दिया मैसेज। It's just a matter of convention or a coincidence, you can say, that ID is also same. ID is also name, ID is also email, ID is also password. Let me change one of the IDs. So for example, if I change email to student underscore email, right? And let me submit the form now. Okay. See what is going in the URL bar. Name is Shah Imran Alam. एम% से डिफर कर रहा है, ठीक है? तो क्या है? यूजर नेम एंड वैल्यू पेयर, राइट? देन अनदर यूजर नेम एंड वैल्यू पेयर, ईमेल इज इक्वल टू शाह इमरान आलम। अब ध्यान दो, कोड में हमने क्या करा था? आईडी को चेंज कर दिया था, राइट? आईडी को क्या चेंज करा था हमने? स्टूडेंट ईमेल, और नेम क्या था? ईमेल था। तो यहाँ पे क्या अपेयर हो रहा है? आईडी अपेयर हो रहा है या नेम अपेयर हो रहा है? नेम अपेयर हो रहा है, राइट? सो दिस इज जस्ट फॉर द sake of surety, I am showing you that email is shahimranalam@gmail.com. It is picking up the name. ठीक है? ampersand password is equal to the password that I have inserted, and then message is some value I have inserted. ठीक है? All these key value pairs are distinguished by an ampersand symbol, right? And they all start after the question mark. Here you can see after the question mark, right? ठीक है? And you can see it because the method is get. If the method had been post, then in that case this information goes inside the body of HTTP request. In that case you won't see it here. नहीं दिखेंगे फिर ना, फिर पैरामीटर नहीं दिखेंगे, फिर तो बॉडी में जाएंगे. Why? Because for normally for username and password you won't like a person standing on the or sitting on in my shoulder should be able to see the username and password being passed here in the URL bar or the address bar, right? So for that reason, any page that collect any confidential information, any form that collect the confidential information, that should always be using the post method. ठीक है? फॉर्म में मेथड आपका क्या होना चाहिए? पोस्ट होना चाहिए, right? But because this is get, to demonstrate I can use it, right? This is just for the demonstration purpose, right? So one thing is understood, that the information that is passed to the server, which is meant for the server, goes by the variable name and its value that we provide in the name attribute, right? Fine. This one, right? Correct. ID, as I said, is used to refer from this client side internal page, HTML page itself, either for the styling purpose or for the dynamic behavior using JavaScript. You will see cascading style sheet and JavaScript soon, right? So for that purpose, if I want to use it, I will use the IDE. One more thing, there is a possibility, we have in fact seen in the past examples, when we talked about the select options, right? If you have got a number of options, you have to select. For example, you want to take the admission in one of the courses. Say which course? MCA, MTech, or BTech, right? So of course you are going to select one of the course, right? All these three are radio buttons, but the name that you are going to give may be the same. Why? Because whatever option that you choose, that has to go by the same name, because that is on the server side. It knows that it will come by a particular name, and that has to be set already, right? So that is a possibility that you may give the same name, but the ID must be unique. If you do not give the ID unique, what will happen? Will you get a compilation error? Yes? No? No. Because HTML, as we know, is an interpreted language, right? It does not compile. It works at the time of, just like, it's scanning the line and the browser is interpreting the result, right? So you don't have a compilation in place. So if there is a mistake, then some problem may occur, and that problem you won't have a clue of what the problem is. Just you won't see the right results. Then you will have to figure it out on your own. ठीक है? ठीक है? That's why the interpreted language are a little more difficult to debug. ठीक है? Because you won't get a clear cut error which you get usually on the compilation time. That is fixed even before the code runs. ठीक है? After the compilation, the code is executed, right? So the problem that is there, most of the problems which are not runtime problems, those are fixed at the compile time itself. ठीक है? And a good language try to push as many problem to be fixed at the compile time so that it should not break the code at the runtime. ठीक है? Irrespective of the language that I am using. अरे बात समझ में? अगर कोई लैंग्वेज कंपाइल टाइम पे ही आपकी ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम को रोक देती है, तो रन टाइम पे आपका कोड नहीं फटेगा ना। कभी-कभी आप क्या करते हैं, आप कोई साइट पे जाते हैं, अचानक से एक स्टैक ट्रेस आ जाता है अजीब-सा, है ना? या कोई प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है, दिस साइट इज़ हैज़ गॉट सम इंटरनल सर्वर एरर, सर्वर 500 शो करने लगेगा, है ना? तो उस तरह की जो प्रॉब्लम आपको आ रही है, दैट्स बिकॉज़ बैकएंड सर्वर साइड कंपोनेंट हैज़ फेल्ड at the runtime. It has given some problem which was not handled beforehand, right? ठीक है? तो ऐसी प्रॉब्लम तब होगी जब जो चीज कंपाइलेशन से बच करके वहां तक पहुंच जाए। तो जो भी लैंग्वेज आपके कंपाइल टाइम पे ही मैक्सिमम प्रॉब्लम को रोक देती है फ्रंट पे, दैट मीन्स दैट इज डूइंग more of effort to get the problem or get the user experience in trouble. ठीक है? मतलब यूजर एक्सपीरियंस मतलब क्या है? जब यूजर्स को यूज कर रहा है तब उसको प्रॉब्लम नहीं आनी चाहिए। ठीक है? या कम से कम आप उसको कोशिश करेंगे कि उसकी चांसेस कम से कम रहे। Is it okay? You are able to understand the difference between name and ID, right? Now, so any questions? Okay. We have got four input types. One is text, the next is email, right? The third is password, and the fourth is text area. ठीक है? Right? These are the four input types. They behave differently, right? They all have name, they all have IDs. Now, even before them, I have put a label. You see, this is label. This is label. This password that is being printed is label. This message which is being printed is label. Okay? These are our what? Labels. So one can argue that what's the need of this label? It's gone. Simply, I would have typed name, right? Why should I put an effort to write a complete line with a specific tag element label? What do you think? If a language provides you certain options, then that option is useful in at least one situation. ठीक है? Without any reason, it's not going to provide you any feature, right? So there must be some reason, right? ठीक है? क्या हो सकता है बताओ? Guess करो. Normal आप you would have seen such kind of behavior. You are used to browsing, right? You have seen a lot of websites in your application. Have you noticed ever which could be related to the question that I'm asking? Right here, there are four labels, right, in the whole page. Suppose this is a big form that has got 20 fields, and similarly, I have defined label for 20 fields, right? Now, what I want, my manager comes and says that your client is a little, kind of a person which is more towards art. He is something who like colorful pages. Uh, So he wants all the label to be in some color, some particular color, right? So you need something to hold upon all the label and make a single place of change. Okay? We will come to it in detail just for the sake of understanding why we are using label. I'm just showing you something. Hmm. Okay, I've already added so many styles. Okay, just let it be there. Okay, see, I'm just adding label. Label is the name of the tag. ये समझ में आ रही है? लेबल को मैंने कर्ली ब्रेसेस से क्लोज किया, ओपन किया, ठीक है? बैकग्राउंड कलर से, got it? So now if there were 20 or 100 such labels for all the fields, just changing a color over here would allow me to change the color for आ जाओ बेटा, all the labels, right? Right? Now अब बैकग्राउंड कलर ऐसा हो गया तो क्या करूं मैं? कलर को चेंज कर दूं, राइट? कलर व्हाइट, नजर आ गया? ठीक है? So that is the reason. If I would have not placed a label, you know, as a HTML element, just I would have typed the name as the name or email and so on, the label as name or email and so on. So I would not have anything to hold on to which I can say change for all such occurrence of this particular element, right? So basically, all these tags, when we talk in the terms of styling, we are providing a style over here, right? We are providing a style over here. The color and the background color. These are the styles for all the labels. For all the labels in the page, right? ठीक है भाई? So when we want to provide a common styling to multiple elements of the, which is actually the same HTML element, then that element name has to be picked up, and we call that element name as a selector. We call it as a selector, and whatever you see inside it is called as a decorator. ठीक है? Fine. So that is the reason why we probably need a label tag separately. Similarly, not only for this, if when we will study JavaScript, I won't show it here as of now because it's a little more to come after some time. So if you want to have a behavior something like whenever you insert something over here in a particular field, the rest of the background color should remain blue. This should turn red or this should turn green, right? Just a kind of a decoration, right? So in that case, you will use probably the JavaScript. Okay? So such kind of dynamic behavior could be added again because you have used the element, HTML element that I can use as a use for all the occurrence of label. Okay? Clear? है? Another reason why label is used is because there are lots of frameworks and they use the element label. It's just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that you are studying in your syllabus, but there are lots of advanced frameworks. When you actually start working, you will learn the advanced frameworks, right? And of course, the basic has to be known. Without the basic, you cannot proceed to anything. But with the basic, when you go for the advanced frameworks, then you will see that these elements are being used heavily, right? Yeah. One more example I can show you is for the label is See this. जी जी सर। क्लास कहाँ चलना था? मुझे कुछ नहीं मिला, मुझे नहीं पता। अरे मेल मेरे पास आई नहीं ऐसा कोई। कैसी बात कर रहे हैं? किस में चेक करूँ? कमाल है यार, मैं तो क्लास ले रहा हूँ। रुकिए एक मिनट, ट्रांसफर एक मिनट रुकिए, चेक करिए, मैं चेक करता हूँ। ये अच्छा नाटक है, कुछ पता भी नहीं चलता है। भाई मेल मेरे पास आया नहीं है, ऑफिशियली मेल नहीं आया है। अच्छा, और कि मैं आप एक बार उसमें भी चेक कर लेता हूँ, स्पैम में भी। और स्पैम में नहीं, मेरे पास मेल नहीं आया है। सबसे बड़ी बात, मेरी पहली बात, मेरे पास मेल नहीं आया है। स्पैम में भी नहीं है, स्पैम में नहीं आया है, और अभी मैं ले रहा हूँ क्लास। ठीक है, तो अब बताइए क्या करना चाहिए मुझे? ये कोई नहीं, नहीं तो मेल भी तो आनी चाहिए। भाई मेल भी तो आना चाहिए, मतलब ये मेल भी तो आना चाहिए ना। अब ये थोड़ा ना है कि आदमी एकदम से क्लास ले रहा है 10 बजे, अब कोई मतलब अब वो भी आप कॉल कर रहे हैं, मतलब ऑफिस से भी कुछ वो नहीं है। रुकिए, मैं रुकिए एक बार ऑफिशियली मेल पे भी चेक करता हूँ। मैं रुकिए, ऑफिशियल मेल पे चेक करता हूँ। स्टूडेंट को एक मौसम खराब है, मैं बुला रखा है मैंने, वरना मैं स्टूडेंट को ही मना कर देता। एक मिनट रुकिए, एक मिनट रुकिए। नहीं देखिए, इस पे भी कोई मेल नहीं आया मेरे पास कोई मेल नहीं रिसीव हुआ है मेरे पास। जी जी सर, किसी भी मेल आईडी मेरे पास मेल रिसीव नहीं हुआ है, ना तो ऑफिशियल मेल आईडी पे, ना नॉर्मल मेल आईडी पे। और मैं बच्चों को बुला चुका हूँ, अब मैं क्लास ले रहा हूँ। हाँ छोड़ दीजिए, मैं नहीं जा रहा। मैं अभी तो क्लास ले रहा हूँ, तो क्लास लूंगा मैं। आ जाओ। ओके गाइस। So just have a look at this document. You have got a header, right? That is meant to demonstrate the label elements, and then some paragraph that said click on one of the text labels to toggle the related radio buttons, right? बेटा थोड़ा इधर ध्यान दे दो, ठीक है? Form action I have left empty. See input type radio, ID is HTML, name is equal to favorite language. You can see the example. You have got the same name for multiple radio buttons, right? Because when I will submit on the server, it should go by the same name, right? Because only one of the radio buttons I can choose, right? So it should not happen that it should go by the radio by the name favorite language one, favorite language two, favorite language three, because there has to be chosen only one language, right? So the name is common in both the cases, right? So this is input type radio. ID I can change. ID has to be different. ID has to be different. ID has to be unique. ठीक है? ऐसे भी ID का मतलब क्या होता है? हर एक की ID अलग होती है, right? So ID has to be unique. So you can see all for all these radio buttons, you can see the ID is unique, and then there is a label for each of these input types, and the label comes after the input type declaration, right? That means this information HTML you will see after the radio button is created. ठीक है, fine. Then there is a submit button, which has got the value submit. Let me run it. You can see first radio button is coming. Then you can see the label for it. ID is the HTML, so it has to be matched with the for value HTML, right? And then HTML is coming over here, correct? Similarly for CSS and for JavaScript. If I choose one, say for example CSS, and submit, you can have a look. The name is used here, fab underscore language, and the value is CSS, right? So the name could be repeated. The ID has to be unique. Okay? You can see the difference over here. A justified gap between the radio button and the HTML. This is again one of the advantages of label. Okay?